Now you can imagine, it's probably before daylight, like now. And you can imagine the literal horror of this horde of humanity running over you. And one of the things that, in a number of diaries that I've read, one of the things is the Confederate soldiers, they were not allowed to build a fire the night before the attack, on Saturday night. So they're out there in the middle of the dark, cold, no fires, and whatever they have to eat is cold. Well, the Union Army was cooking breakfast. And a lot of, you already read my mind, a lot of soldiers stopped because there were biscuits in that thing. They couldn't even get, some of them couldn't even get them back into the battle because, hey, we got breakfast. So they're chasing the Union soldiers in a mad run across these woods and through these fields. And that, as we came back here, I hope you noticed the literal roughness of this terrain. The ditches, the thickets, and then every now and then open fields. So the battle turns right over that crest of that hill into a farm road, a little sunken road. And when we made the big loop back, that road we were on is just over there through those woods. That farm road connected farms across this back thing. And ruts were cut down into the woods. So Union soldiers, if you look on your list, for those of you who have it, it's called the Hornet. And it's the first turning point of the battle because General Prentice, who was a Union officer, decided he would hold that road. And he had 4,300 men in that road, armed with rifles that were accurate to 1,000 yards. So I told you earlier, I had a relative here with a shotgun. Well, you understood who had superior firepower, not my relative. So in that road with 4,300 men, and the Confederates are coming through these woods, charging that direction, and it is in that field where Billy Patton was killed, the former governor of Alabama from Florence. He's not governor yet, he's governor during Reconstruction. But he is born and raised at Sweetwater there, Sweetwater Plantation. He was killed in the first wave here. And he had a slave attendant named Sam. And Sam was instructed by Governor Patton, if Billy is killed, I want you to bring his body home. I've read a number of instances about this. I don't know how Sam got Billy's body off this field and got it home in a wagon in 2 days. So he left here on Sunday sometime and arrived in Florence about Tuesday night with Billy's body. Amazing how he did that. So that's an interesting story. Bill McDonald has written an article about that. But it's interesting, General Bragg is the commander of the Confederates in this charge. And so he charged across that field with 18,000 men at different times. At no time did 18,000 make the charge. But had they combined the forces, they would have overrun that road. Instead, the Union Army held that road until 5:30 in the afternoon. Here's the irony of it all. General Forrest asked permission from Bragg, let me take my men and go around behind them and come in behind it and we'll flank them. And Bragg said, nope, I'm going to train this army with bayonets. So they would charge across that open field with a bayonet, facing those men dug into that road with rifles that were accurate at 1,000 yards. So you can imagine it was a bloodbath. Finally, they were overwhelmed, and when they got them overwhelmed by these cannons. This is called, this particular thing, notice it says thunder in the thicket. This fight took place for 6 hours until they amassed this line of cannons that stretched from this road to the other road, and then opened fire on that road. And they bombarded that road for about an hour before the last attack drove them off. And the interesting thing is, they were able to hold that road, and by doing that, they were able to save the army from being driven into the river. By this time, Grant has arrived about 10 o'clock in the morning. He's reorganizing men down here to make a stand. And if you'll remember, when you came into the museum, there was a historic marker that says this is the Union Army's last stand right there, about where the museum is. Otherwise, they go into the river. So this is about as far as the Confederates got at dark on that day. And when he surrendered that road, he had 2,200 men left out of 4,300. The rest were killed and wounded. So I thought it'd be pretty interesting. Just on the other side of those woods is the peach orchard. Some of you have heard of the peach orchard. General Johnston is killed over there at 3:30 in the afternoon. And you go over there and you read the historic marker. Had it not been in the excitement of the battle, had he been thinking, all he had to do was apply a tourniquet, and instead he bled to death. And so the commander of the Confederate Army, the beloved commander, dies. His men don't know it yet, but he's dead. And Beauregard, called the Raging Cajun, if you would, will be the commander, and he calls off the attack at dark. So as we go back around the church, we're going to make that loop and go back to where Johnston fell, to the peach orchard, and we're going to make our way back out of here. But it's interesting, the battle hinges, the entire Battle of Shiloh hinged on that little road right down there. I got a story. One of my favorite authors is Shelby Foote. And when I used to come up here, sometimes I'd come up by myself. I would come up with a friend of mine and we would just walk. We would get a map and we would just walk. Well, I couldn't come that day, and he got home that afternoon and he said, "You're not going to believe it." You know, I didn't know what to do. He said, "Got out of my car, so and so and so and so." I knew where it was. He said, "Met this guy walking on the sunken road." Very interesting. Said the guy knew everything. He knew about the battle and everything. We get back to our car. It was Shelby from Ole Miss. He said, "I didn't wash my hand for about 2 days." Shelby Foote. And if you've ever seen the PBS documentary on the Civil War, he's quoted a great deal in that. And his voice is always that wonderful Southern drawl. So this is the turning point right here, this field. And during the night, General Buell from Nashville brings 20,000 fresh troops across the river. So when the fight starts on Monday morning, the next morning, they drive the Confederates right back where they came from, back to Corinth. Because 20,000 fresh soldiers entered the battle. And I didn't tell you this, Grant ordered the gunboats on the river, all the Union gunboats on the river, to fire every 15 minutes into the trees, to launch shells into the trees, where the Confederates were trying to sleep. So there is no sleep. Tree limbs are breaking and falling, and people are running and screaming all night long. And this goes on all night long. And then the battle resumes at daylight on Monday morning. So it's a 2-day battle, Sunday, Monday, but it's actually the Confederates are retreating back where they just came from on Monday. Any questions?